to talk to you guys today about being district leaders, which is our first great overriding position, right? Now, just like the slide says, where's the slide? The slide says the size of your team is the size of your success, right? So what we want to talk about is becoming fundamentally sound. Now think about it. Who is the best field trainer on your team? Hopefully it's you, right? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself being a field trainer? Well, there's certain areas in our business that we need to get good at, which means we're in the classroom right now, folks. We're learning, right? But at some point, we got to put the books down and we got to get out there and do, which means we got to go home and we got to do our homework. So our 5 key fundamentals, right? Our first one is appointment setting, right? Now we got to get good at appointment setting. Now there's a lot of scripts out there. I don't know what base shop that you're in, but whatever base shop you're in, I'm sure there's a script out there. If you don't have a script, there's plenty of them all around the country in different base shops that you can use. But when you're talking about appointment setting, your goal is to get in the house. Your goal is not to close the person over the phone. So you want to get really good at appointment setting. And folks, that's where we make income, over the kitchen table, right? So it's great we get a lot of people in the office, but we got to get out there and we got to show family how our business works. So we got to get out there and we got to get good at appointment setting. The next thing we want to talk about is our presentation. One of the things I found out is that our guys are going out and they're spending 30, 45 minutes, an hour presenting. And then by the time they're done, they're wearing the client out, they're wearing the prospect out. So what we want to do is we don't want to do that. They're only spending 10, 15 minutes closing. Now think about it. If you spend 10 or 15 minutes presenting, another 45 or 50 minutes closing, are you more likely to get success?
Yes.
Absolutely. So we want to turn that around. Now your presentation needs to be an eye-opener. It's kind of like a movie trailer. You want all the facts, you want the exciting parts coming out, right? You want to get enthusiastic. You want to make it so simple. You want to make it so energized, so enthusiastic that they think they can do it. When they hear it, they're like, man, I got to get involved. This is something I need to do, right? And half your job is done, right? So you're looking at about a 10 to 15 minute presentation. The next thing we want to talk about is overcoming objections. You see, overcoming objections is helping people make decisions that are good for themselves, right? Everybody wants to own something, but nobody wants to buy anything, right? So we have to help them make those objections. Now, there's a lot of CDs. There's the Hector Lamarck, the Keith Ottos. There's a lot of CDs. There's a lot of books out there on overcoming objections, which means you got to get out there and you got to do your homework. You see, the rewards here are huge when you do your homework and you do the right thing. And the payoffs, you hear about the incomes that these Primericans are making. And I know everybody in this room wants to make that kind of income. Well, let me tell you, the people that are making those kind of incomes, it didn't come easy for them. They went home and they studied. I remember back when we got started, I used to go home, my daughters were 4 and 6 years old, and I'd go home with my flip chart presentation, I'd practice with them, and they felt so bad for me. They're like, oh, Daddy, I'll take it. Right? We got to do that. We got to do it till we're tired of doing it. One thing you really want to do is you want to go in the mirror and you want to do your presentation and you want to try your objections and you want anything anybody says, you'll realize that the objections that you get the same 3 or 4 objections over and over again. It's the way you handle it. You got to learn to ask the same questions in different ways. And that's how you overcome the objection. Which brings us to closing. Right? Closing is a very important part of our business because we can spend our time presenting and overcoming objections and doing all those things. But if we don't ask, the answer, Joe Enser always told us, the answer is always no until we ask, right? So it's plain and simple, just ask. The most they can say is no, which means you got to overcome it and you got to go back at it again. They're not going to pull out a gun and shoot you or stab you or kick you out of the house, right? And if they do, move on to the next one. Right? So closing is something that's paramount. And when do you close? You close as soon as possible. How many times do you close? As often as possible. Right? And again, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of CDs, there's a lot of things out there, which means you got to go home and you got to do your homework on that. Right? And the last part of the 5 fundamentals is getting and using referrals. You see, folks, we live and die with a sale. Right? But when we get a referral, it brings a whole market to us. right? Which means we can go and we could, Bob Safford always told us, introduce me to one person and I'll meet the world, right? I don't like talking to strangers, but if you introduce me to somebody, I'll talk to them like they're my best friend for life, right? And that's just the way we are, and I know you're like that too. And I know maybe you do like talking to strangers, that's fine. But if somebody introduced you, it's a lot easier when you're recommended by somebody else, right? I just had somebody call me up this morning and she says, all those people I gave you, they said nobody called them, right? And that's the kind of referrals you want. When you do a good job for people and when you take care of them and you return their phone calls and you treat them like they're your only prospect, they will tell people about you. So referrals, never leave the house without it. People ask me, how do you get referrals? Well, I ask. I don't know how you get them, but I ask, right? And I ask again, right? And then they say, oh, I don't know anybody. Then you say, okay, give me your cell phone. Let me see your contact list. I want to see all the people you don't know, right? And they always have a lot of people in there, right? Sometimes you want to ask them if they've been living under a rock, but you can't. Right? So those are the 5 key fundamentals. So folks, you get good at these things, right? You can teach other people to get good at them, right? And you get other people get good at them. You're talking about a lot of overrides. You're talking about a lot of income. And again, the rewards are huge, right? Now, once you learn these fundamentals, right? Part-time, I know it says 10 to 20 personal guests a meeting, but that's a month. It's supposed to be a month. If you can get them in one meeting, that'd be great. So if your op night is 2 or 3 times a week, 10 to 20 guests part-time is not a whole lot of guests. That means you're talking to people. And if you talk to people, right, you will get guests out. The only reason we don't get guests is because we don't talk to enough people, right? We can't take no. If they say no, say thank you and move on to the next one, right? And then you want to have at least 2 to 4 directs in the office per meeting that you override, right? It's great when the office is filled, but how many people are on your team? Right? And then you want to make money at the same time. You see, we're not supposed to go broke building our business. We're supposed to make money while we're building our business. Right? I remember when we started, our first year, we made $3,000, right? 40 months later, we were making $40,000, $50,000 a month because we internalized these things and we kept on it and we wouldn't let anybody take it away from us. Nobody was good enough to take our opportunity away. Right? How we doing? Right? Now, you want to go full-time. Eventually you want to go full-time. If you have a partner in the business, one of you want to get full-time as soon as possible. Right? So you want to up your numbers. This means you got to talk to more people, right? And now it says per meeting, but it's a month. Right? So 40 to 50 guests a month. Right? So if you're doing 8, 10 meetings a month, right? That's 10 guests a week. Right? That's not a whole lot of people, folks, when we're working full-time. That's 8, 10 hours a day we're supposed to work. When we're self-employed, right, we put that time in and we give them our energy and we rent our time out for money. When we have a job that's what we do, when we're self-employed, right, it's hours, which means we got to put more energy, we got to put more time in. Right? And then you want to up how many people you have at the meeting. So 4 to 8 directs a meeting, it's not a whole lot of people when you're talking to a lot of people. And how do you get people to the meeting? Well, you do a 30-second phone call. That's all. You don't want to spend too much time because then you're going to do the whole meeting over the phone. You don't want to do that. You just want to get them excited so they can get there. And you want to do those appointments so we can make income because that's where we make income, folks. Right? And then moving on to the last part. Right? You want to perform self-assessment because we got to do stuff and we want to look at what we've done. Now, you can't get mad for the results we didn't get from the work that we didn't do. Right? So when we leave in the morning, we can't go to the office, right, and check YouTube and be on POL. No, it's game time. We need to get to work. Right? And then we got to check our attitude. It's easy to be excited that everything's going good. But when it's not going good, that's when you got to get excited. That's when you got to get mad. That's when you got to get after it. That's when you got to be at your best because we're always on stage. Right? And then you got to take time for you to get better. If you're not growing, you're dying. So we've got to get after that and keep yourself accountable. I know my wife keeps me very accountable. She makes sure I do what I'm supposed to do when I'm supposed to do it. If not, I'm not going to get what I want. Right? So take that with you. Go home, do your homework. Have a great day and enjoy the convention.